Well, good morning, social media friends. Happy Tuesday. Dr. Jeff Riggenbach back here with you on a Tips Tuesday to give you another tip for dealing with the difficult people in your life. If you have not gotten your free cheat sheet for identifying and dealing with the 8 types of difficult people, feel free to click that link below and grab yourself one. This is based upon the content from my new book, Disarming High Conflict Personalities, dealing with the 8 most difficult people in your life before they drive you nuts. And I'm so excited about this work. I hope that this free social media series is beneficial for you. I want you to get every resource that you can along the way. So feel free to click that link below and grab yourself a copy of the cheat sheet. I think it'll be in the description as well as the comments as well. But make sure you get your copy. So today's tip has to do with identifying what exactly is a difficult person. I was actually doing a training in San Antonio a little while back. And I had one of the participants say, now, wait a minute, I didn't have 30 seconds out of my mouth probably. And she says, what are you talking about difficult people? I mean, who are you calling difficult? And I thought in addition to being a little easily offended, she probably raises a good question because it is important, I think, that we identify exactly who we're talking about here. In my research for this project, I actually came across over 300 Facebook groups, pages of some kind, personal pages, fan pages, business pages, group pages, and devoted to narcissism. What if your parent was a narcissist? How do you live with the narcissist? What if you're divorcing a narcissist? I mean, all these different categories. And I just kind of had to sit back and laugh a little bit. I said, boy, if you were an alien just landing on the planet Earth for the first time, hopped off the aircraft and jumped on social media, you might think that 50% of these humanoids were what they call narcissists. And I don't mean to make light about this. I joke about it a little bit. But I do know that people with narcissistic traits have done tremendous damage to a number of people. So I don't mean to make light of it. But the reality is that there just aren't that many people out there. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual put out by the American Psychological Association estimates 1 to 3% of the population qualifies for narcissism in terms of an actual disorder. So, I mean, the bottom line here is it's just a lot easier to call somebody else a name than it is to see our role in a problematic relationship or even an interaction that's gone bad. And so I do think it's a fair question. So we're not just talking about people that we don't like. We're not just talking about people that are different than us. But we do have 5 specific characteristics that make difficult people difficult people. And in today's sneak peek of my content from the book and the coaching program, I'm going to give you quickly what those 5 characteristics are. Characteristic number 1 of a difficult person is that they are easily triggered. They're easily triggered. Triggered is a word that we've had for years in our psychological vernacular. But I think it's just recently started making its way into the mainstream. You're hearing it used all over the place now in social media. I heard it on the radio the other day. Occasionally, it's actually used incorrectly. But triggered simply means that in good clinical terms, we get worked up. Okay. Another word or phrase, I guess, that my clients will often say is that so-and-so really knows how to push my buttons. Okay. And so when we get our buttons pushed, when we get worked up, when we get emotionally upset in some way, we know that we have been triggered. In the program, I actually go into the science behind the belief that's activated and how all that process works. But for our purposes here today, triggered simply means we get worked up. Now, again, all of us get triggered and we get triggered from time to time. But one of the things about difficult people is that they're pretty regularly triggered. So if you're dealing with somebody that every day, multiple times a week, you go into work, you see them on your committee meeting, wherever you might happen to run into these folks, if pretty regularly they're getting worked up, this may be a sign that they qualify for characteristic number 1. Number 2 has to do with they have extreme thinking. Number 2, difficult people have extreme thinking. Now, this can take a number of different manifestations. This can look very different in different people. But to give you an example, for instance, in what I call the overanalyzer. Okay, it's one of our 8 types of difficult people. And these are people with extreme perfectionistic type of thinking and behavior. And with these folks, it may look something like, I have to do it absolutely perfectly, or I have to complete this 100%, complete this section before I move on. And these kinds of thoughts, this kind of a mindset, which often leads to things like, working unauthorized overtime, difficulty completing tasks, difficulty delegating. So it can be problematic for different members on teams, oftentimes showing up late. And so these are behavioral problems that we see in the workplace, sometimes in personal life, sometimes in other settings that come from one type of this extreme thinking. Another type is what I call the bully. And the bully typically has narcissistic traits. And that mindset is often going to have thoughts along the lines of, I'll do whatever it takes to win. Win at all costs. Doesn't matter who I run over. Doesn't matter whose feelings I hurt. Maybe it doesn't even matter what rules get broken or norms get violated. I'm going to win at all costs. I'll do absolutely anything to win. So another version of extreme thinking. Again, we have 8 specific versions of this extreme thinking in the 8 types of difficult people. And again, you can click there and get your cheat sheet if you don't have yours that outlines what these 8 types are. Characteristic number 3, they have intense emotions. Intense emotions. Now, again, we all can have intense emotions from time to time, but we're looking for patterns here. We're looking for themes. So if you see this regularly, you got that person that is just always so, sort of wound so tight that maybe you go into work and you feel your stress level rising just being around them. Difficult people frequently have intense emotions. Characteristic number 4, they have inflexible behavior. Inflexible behavior. This is one of our characteristics that we use to measure what we might call adaptive personality functioning, or what we might call healthy personality functioning versus unhealthy personality functioning, or on these extreme, sort of on the extreme end, more difficult people. On the very extreme end, people with full-blown personality disorders. A lot of people just have these difficult personality styles, and this is one of the big markers to look for. I was working with a gentleman who was referred by a company that I was working with, who this guy could not meet his deadlines. He was working that unauthorized overtime. I think he popped into my mind a minute ago when I was giving one example. He had 3 warnings. He had been written up maybe twice, maybe just once. After his 3 warnings, he'd been on one full-blown corrective action plan, and he just could not change his way of thinking. And once I get to working with this guy and helping him meet deadlines and helping him delegate tasks a little better and these sorts of things, really improving his performance in the workplace, one of the things that I noticed was this critical thinking that he had that served him so well in his job, that it had to do with compliance. And so, he's catching all the mistakes. He's catching all the errors that other people don't catch. And he'd saved his company tens of thousands, if not more, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. But that critical eye for catching what's wrong with something and trying to fix it, that did serve him well in that role, did not serve him well as he got promoted. Actually, 2 promotions later, he got promoted right out of his sweet spot. And so he had to deal with the public, he had to interact with the leadership team, and those same qualities that served him well in that one position didn't serve him well as he got elevated to our positions. And actually, we found out when we got into some personal stuff in the coaching, didn't serve him so well in his personal life. His wife didn't like being criticized and told what was wrong with her all the time when he came home. I actually found out he was alienated from 2 of his 3 adult children. And so this is what we're talking about with a flexibility in personality. Hopefully, most of us have the ability to exercise some critical thinking. Some people, it comes more natural than others. But we do have the ability to sort of turn our personality style or traits sort of on and off according to context, when it fits what's going to serve us well in life. Because the reality is that life calls for a variety of different behaviors depending upon the circumstance. And the reality is that we have to be able to behave differently when we are on a roller coaster at a theme park than we do when we are at a funeral. And difficult personality individuals can't do that because their personality is inflexible. Characteristic number 5, lack of awareness. Lack of awareness. So not only are they easily triggered, have extreme thinking, have intense emotions, have inflexible behavior, but they don't get it. Okay. And so this is perhaps one of the things that makes these people most frustrating to so many of us is they don't get it. Okay. And so these behaviors become problematic for other people. Okay, in school administration and in clergy and in leadership in the workplace and with coworkers, with us. Okay, they become problems for us before they become problems for them. So initially, they don't have a lot of interest in being different. Which is where you can do your teamwork trainings and your value and missions and culture trainings and those kinds of things. And there's great value in those trainings, but that stuff is not going to deal with any of these personality dynamics that we see contributing to long-term problems in organizations. So I hope you found that helpful. There's your 5 tips, 5 characteristics, I should say, as part of this tip for what really makes a person difficult. So what are we really talking about when we're talking about, one of these 8 types of high conflict personalities? Number 1, they're easily triggered. Number 2, they have extreme thinking. Number 3, they have intense emotion. Number 4, they have inflexible behaviors. And number 5, they have lack of awareness. And they don't see any of the previous 4, which makes it so much difficult for the rest of us to be around. I hope you found that tip helpful for this week. Again, click on the cheat sheet, get your 8 different types of difficult personalities. I got to tell you, folks have found this helpful in the workplace. They're dealing with coworkers or supervisors or dealing with clients. If you're in the educational arena, dealing with administrators or teachers, other educators or students. Or whether you're in the faith-based community or the nonprofit sector and dealing with clients and dealing with board members and these kinds of things. So regardless of setting, you're going to see these 8 types of difficult people show up. So grab your cheat sheet. I hope it's helpful for you. I hope this video has been helpful for you. I hope everybody has a great week. And in the meantime, we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care.